One lady?
Yeah.
Your lady?
Okay. Good afternoon, people. So in the last class, we were looking at different structures within the eye, starting with the conjunctiva, that was the outermost one, structure which was transparent, through which the first light will pass through. Then the eyeball, whole of the round structure, which had three different layers: sclera, choroid, and retina, from outer to inside. So sclera is the whitish part of the eye that you have a look at. Usually, it's visible, and it's also extends over the all the portion of the eyeball, which is very fibrous and kind of tough tissue, so that it does the function of protection. And in the front part of this eye, the sclera is kind of transparent, which becomes into cornea. Cornea is like again a thin transparent layer of the tissue uh, within the eye structure. Then the choroid, the main function of the choroid was first one being very vascular in nature. That means too many blood vessels to supply the nutrition to the eye. And second most important, the presence of this melanin pigment layer, which prevents the uh, uh, what we say deflective behavior of the light rays. So that was the so it will absorb all of the light, and that was the function of this melanin layer. And the retina, that was the last one we looked at, which is the innermost layer, and it had two different types of cells: rod cells and cone cells. Rod cells being sensitive to dim light, and they contain this pigment called rhodopsin or visual purple. And the cone cell, these were sensitive to bright light, and it was responsible also for the color vision, and that contains the pigment called iodopsin. And yellow spot, we'll discuss it today, like I had said in the last time. So these were the different structures we had looked at earlier. Now just looking at the details of the retinal structure. So if you look at this particular portion, which is enlarged from this section of the eye, so again, like a particular eye has been chopped into two halves, and a small part of it is enlarged to see all the different layers. So this whitish or kind of sky blue color is the sclera. Then this brown layer is the choroid. This blue thing, a small blue line that you see, is actually, it should be black, which is of the melanin layer, which will absorb all the light. And then from this square box like structure, that orange, this whole region is the retina. And within retina you can see these rod cells and cone cells. So they are just labeled, uh, like if it is rod shaped, it will be rod cells; if it is cone shaped, it will be cone cells. And they are connected with the network of nerve cells, or what we call as ganglion, which we'll see in the next chapter of nervous system. But they are connected to the nerves, and these nerves, they combine together to form an optic nerve, which takes the signal from the eye to the brain. So that is the overall structure of the retina. Now one thing that this diagram represents it kind of not correctly is the arrangement. It's not that always these rod cells and cone cells, they are at the end, and then on top or on the innermost side there is a network. It's like kind of intermixed with each other, because it cannot be that only these cells will be a layer and then neuron will form another layer. It's kind of, like I said, it's intermixed, so that wherever these rod cells are, they will always be connected with the nerve cell, and from there they will form this nerve, optic nerve. So that is the general structure. Sorry, I missed on mentioning this retinal pigment epithelium. So these square box like cells, these are retinal pigment epithelium, which is like functioning like any epithelial layer. You know the function of epithelial tissue or epithelial cells. So that's something similar with the retina as well. So they will provide the nutrition, and so on. So that is the structure of retina. The next structure, that is the iris. So iris is the one which is kind of that black portion. uh, of the whole of the eye structure. Yeah. Yes, correct. So it is an extension of the choroid. So if I go back to the uh, diagram, so if you look at this choroid layer, which is this inner two lines, if you extend them further, that becomes the iris structure, and then this opening is what is called as pupil. So iris is not completely intact, rather it's intact on the until the round part, but towards the center of the eyeball from the front, it is not intact. So that is how the iris is. So if you look at this, so at this portion, there will be until this pupil, there will be iris, but like this completely black part, there will be no iris structure. So it is an extension of the choroid, partially covering the lens, as in in front of the pupil or through the pupil region, it will have the lens wide open, and the rest of the part of the lens will be covered. So I hope you are able to imagine this part. So this is what is iris, this extended flap-like thing being shown, but here it is flap. Otherwise, it will be just like a ring-like structure around the eye, and this opening is the pupil, which is covering, or rather, which is exposing the lens, but the rest of the part of the lens is covered below the iris structure. So that is iris part. Usual coloring of the, sorry, I missed on mentioning this. So so the iris, it leaves a circular opening at the center, like I mentioned. This whole of this black part is the pupil. It is coming from the Latin word, which is puma, and it means a doll. So in colloquial language, most of the like local languages, they say this part of the eye as a doll of the eye, right? That's like, again, in local language, if you translate, it would make more sense. But yeah, that is how it is said. And the coloration of the eyes is because of the iris. So let's say there are this blue, black, brown, green, gray, whatever number of colors that exist, is because of the iris coloration, and this is genetic. That means it is decided by the genes, and it is not a single gene which decides this color of the eye. Rather, there are more than one gene which decides this color. So depending on what combination of those genes and what amount they are expressed, that's how they will, rather, that's how it will show the color of the eye. Now, one of the most important thing with respect to iris, that is that it has radial muscles. Radial means along the radius. So if you look carefully in this eye structure, there is something like this lines which is being seen. That is like a radial arrangement. Somewhere I have this diagram. I guess I have to. Let me show it to you in another image, because it will make it more uh, clear. Iris muscles. Yeah, here it is. So, yeah, this is even a better representation. So, if you look at these lines, these are the radial muscles. So, that's how the iris structure looks like. And then there is something in circle. These are called as circular muscles. So, iris as an organ has two different types of muscles: radial muscles and the circular muscles. And they have different functions altogether, which we'll see later. And this opening at the center is nothing but the pupil. So if you look at this diagram, like you can see, when the radial muscles, they contract, it will pull towards the edge or towards the circumference, and that way the pupil will open, and that's when these lines, they have kind of thickened, because they are like contracted. And in the other case, when it is this situation, the circular muscles, they will be contracted. So that is how, and again, that is why this line which is shown here in green, it is thinner and it is thicker here. That means the circular muscles, they are contracted. So you can see the constrictor and the dilator part. So that is how the iris is located in the eye structure. Now the most important function of this iris is to dilate the pupil or to constrict the pupil. So iris has this radial muscle to widen as in to increase the size of the pupil, as well as the circular muscle to constrict. So when circular muscles will contract, it will cause constriction of the eyes, or rather the pupil, and the adjustment of the size of the pupil will regulate the amount of light entering the eye. So in case if you are looking at a bright object, you usually tend to squint your eyes, like, or squeeze your eyes. That is because you don't want much of the light to enter the eye structure, and that's when the pupil size becomes very smaller. Or in contrary, if you are going in dark, the pupil size is little dilated because the amount of light is very less, and you want more and more light to enter the eyes, and that is when the pupil size is dilated. So that is the adjustment of the pupil to regulate the amount of light entering the eye. uh, yeah, and that's what is explained in this line: dim or dark light pupil, uh, it's dilated in the bright light while it is constricted otherwise, uh, in the like other situations. Now like how we all have individual thumbprints or fingerprints, uh, there is similar pattern of this arrangement of radial as well as circular muscles in the eye. So most of the movies that they show off that the eye scanner, which is one of the higher level of protection in terms of opening or security lock or whatever it is, right? So that is very specific to individual, and that is why this iris, it actually is one of the unique characteristic for an individual. Like we have fingerprint, similarly we have the iris arrangement of the muscles. So that is what is all about iris. Now does anyone have any question? Where are you? Then there is just a little difference that is being mentioned here in terms of rod cells and cone cells. That this you can do on your own. There is nothing much which we have discussed already, and some part we will discuss when we are looking at the function of these retina in terms of how do we see things. So I'm skipping this part. You can just do it on your own. So now we will talk about the yellow spot. So yellow spot is the place of best vision. So while we are looking at the retina structure, we looked at what yellow spot is. I'm feeling hot. And that's where the place of best vision will be. Now, if you have ever observed, while you are reading something, you tend to move from word to word. Your eyesight will move from word to word, and that is why the reason be your eyes try to make the best vision, or the what we say, the point of vision has to be the best for your eyesight, and that is when you tend to move, and that is the point of highest clarity as well as the visual acuity. Acuity means accuracy. So that is the visual acuity. So usually in each of the eye structure, there is non-uniform distribution of the rods and cone cells. It is not that they are equally distributed. There will be one rod, one cone, nothing like that. It is randomly distributed. And next to the, so yellow spot, which is also called as macula lutea, or it is fovea centralis. You need to remember these names, surely. That is macula lutea. This you can forget probably, because it's not part of the syllabus, but this one is surely. So yellow spot lies at the back of the eye and almost at the center of the horizontal axis of the eye. So if I go back to this diagram, so if the light is entering, let's say there is this parallel or the central axis of the eyeball structure, and when the light is entering through the center of that axis, it will end up somewhere here, right, straight the point at the back side of the retina, that will be called as yellow spot. So on the retina, which is the back side of the eye, the point at which meets the retina with the horizontal axis, that is called as yellow spot or the macula lutea. And this point has the best vision. So if the focal point is forming at that point of the yellow spot, the person, whatever he or she is looking at, will have the best sight. Uh, and why it has best sight is because it has maximum number of sensory cells. Now, particularly cone cells, because again the cone cells, they are responsible for like both like color vision as well as the bright vision. So that is when most of the sensory cells are present there, it is obviously going to be very sensitive area in terms of even the smaller amount of signal can give you a better picture. So around the yellow spot or within the yellow spot, there are maximum number of cone cells, and as a result, it is the region of the brightest vision and also the color vision. And the rest of the structure of the retina, that is all the other parts of the retina apart from the yellow spot, has fewer cones and more of the rods. Now why is this situation? Is because like rods cells, they are responsible for what we say dim light. Now when the pupil is dilated, more portion of the retina is exposed, and if the retina has cones in that cell, they will not be much functional because cones are not responsible for deep light. So that is when if the rod cells are present maximum in that whole region around the yellow spot, which is due to the dilated pupil, it will take maximum of the signal and you should be able to see better in terms of in the dim light. So that is the function of yellow spot. And like I already said, this is the reason why you move your eyesight from word to word while you are reading. Otherwise you would be looking at one point and you would read, you would have read, but that is not the situation. So that is the yellow spot. And then there is one more spot within the eye which is called as blind spot. So it is present lateral to the yellow spot on the nasal side, lateral in the sense towards the side. And if you look at this, this is the center of the vision. This blue line is the center of the vision, and blind spot is kind of lateral towards where the optic nerve is originating. So no sensory cells, they are present at this particular point, and that is why it is also called as no vision point, or point of no vision, which is ultimately a blind spot. And why is that the case? Because again I'll go back to this diagram. So I will use this one. You can see the place where optic nerve is originating, there are no nerve cells. So let's say if the light which is entering the eyes, if it is converging at this particular point, this will not give rise to any signal because there are no sensory cells, and that is why it is called as blind spot. So if at all you are like looking at some object and the light is converging or the focal point of that particular image is happening at the blind spot, you won't be able to see the object. On the contrary, if it is a yellow spot, you will see the best version of that particular image. So it is the point at which the nerve fibers from all the sensory cells of the retina, they converge and they bundle together and leave as the optic nerve. So again, just to show you in this diagram, central axis, which is the horizontal axis of the eye structure, and it meets at a point that is the point of the best vision, and this yellow line, wherever it is meeting at the start of the optic nerve, that is called as blind spot. um, there is this video, you can have a look at it. It just speaks of the same fact. I'm not going to show it to you here in this class. You can have a look at it on your own. Then after the iris structure, the next one in sequence is the lens. So lens is a transparent biconvex crystalline body. Again, the crystalline does not literally mean it is made up of crystals, but it has a transparency like crystals. So it is transparent, it is biconvex, and it is crystalline. Biconvex as in it is convex on both the sides. It is located behind the pupil. It is right behind the pupil, like we had seen in terms of structure. And the location is just next to the pupil towards the inner part. It contains transparent lens fibers. These are the thin cells without nuclei. So these cells, they have no nuclei and they are present in the fibrous form. And that's what makes this lens structure. Now the function of lens is obviously like any regular lens that you would know of. And it is collectively held in a position with the fibers called a suspensory ligament. So I had mentioned while we are looking at that particular ciliary body structure or the suspensory ligament structure. Yeah, here it is. So if you look at this lens, it is kind of held like a plate with the finger-like projections of these fibers, and that is called a suspensory ligament or the ciliary body. So ciliary body is the extension of this choroid, and which is further holding in combination with the suspensory ligament. The function of both of these to extend or rather stretch the lens structure or make it more and more stout, to that is called as accommodation of the eye. So if you are looking at a particular point and if you are not able to like look at it clearly, you tend to squeeze in your lens, and that is like a natural process that happens. So that particular thing is called as, or that particular fibers, they are called as suspensory ligament, which are attached to the ciliary body. And yeah, this we already know that ciliary body lies at the junction of the choroid and the iris and is itself a part of the choroid. So it's the extension of the choroid which forms ciliary body and which is holding the lens structure along with the suspensory ligament. The most important part of the ciliary body, like I mentioned, they have elastic muscles which on contraction and relaxation will change the shape of the lens. So that means if the these muscles, ciliary muscles, if they are relaxing, that means the lens is being pushed inward. It will make it more stout. Or if they are contracting, that means lens is getting pulled sideways. So that way the lens will become more and more flat. And that is just to view the objects at different distances. That part also we will see later in terms of while we are looking at the myopia and hyperopia. There we will see what happens when we change the length shape. And then I guess this is the last part in terms of structure of the eye, that is the aqueous chamber, which is the front chamber which is present between the lens and cornea. So again, let me show you this particular chamber of the eye. So this is the lens structure and this is the iris and this is the cornea. So between lens and the cornea, this cavity which is little bulged out, that is called as aqueous cavity. And next across the lens is the vitreous cavity. So this is vitreous and the outside one is aqueous cavity. So when the light ray will travel, it travels through conjunctiva, then cornea, then aqueous cavity, then it will enter through pupil, then lens, and then the vitreous cavity, and then the retina. So that is the movement of light throughout these different layers of the eye structure. So this aqueous cavity is the front chamber and it is filled with the clear watery liquid, which is called as aqueous humor. And the function of this aqueous humor is to keep the lens moist and to protect it from the physical shock. Physical shock in the sense something that is kind of hitting on your eye from outside. So it protects it to some extent. Of course, if it is larger physical shock, it will not be able to protect. And also it refracts the light. Something like if the like that aqueous humor is spread out all over the sclera on the eye structure, that is on the top of the eye, and the amount of light that enters on your face or into your eyes, at least that remaining portion of the sclera, it will reflect it back while only the one which is entering through the pupil will go and reach to the retinal layer. So that is the aqueous chamber and the aqueous humor. Similarly, behind the lens, there is this vitreous chamber, which is the larger cavity of the eyeball present within the eye structure. And this is filled with transparent jelly, which is a thicker liquid, which is more like a jelly-like structure. And it is vitreous humor. Now, vitreous, it means glassy. Glassy, it is referring to as crystalline structure. So that is the vitreous part. And the function of this vitreous fluid is to maintain the shape of the eyeball, right? Like it's like a blowing a balloon until and unless there is completely filled air, it is like remaining intact. Otherwise, it is kind of if it is like it can be pushed down inside rather. So that way, if the vitreous fluid is completely filled within the eyeball, that will act as an intact kind of spherical structure. So that is the function of this vitreous liquid, and it also protects the retina and its nerve ending. That is another function, obviously with the help of certain immune cells and so on. I guess we will stop here for today. If anyone has any question in this structure, tomorrow we'll look at the function and the rest of the part of the eye structure in general. No, sorry, not the structure, the function and different disorders or defects related to the eye. I would prefer to stop here because I feel it's the last class. I should not trouble you more.